So, Everett, this induction problem, I can see we're really gonna focus in on this, and that's good because it's ripe for interpretation, and if we can alter our perspective on the meaning of induction, we can change a lot about our worldview, because induction, it's right at the base, isn't it? It's at the gates of the senses where we decide what we're going to let in as true and what we're going to keep out as false. And until we've come up with some kind of either a solution to the problem or an explanation or description of why there is no problem, until we've devised either of those, we exist sort of without any stable structure to reality. We just can't say much of anything about what it is. And the way you've characterized what I'm basically saying about induction, that I'm saying it's not a problem, so we can just go ahead and make the assumption that one thing will follow another just because it has occurred that way in the past. I'm saying, look, part of being alive, part of actually being a thinking being, of part of all cognitive activity is this process of induction, of reasoning based on experience, what the best course of action or project of the will we ought to undertake. And I'm not saying that there's a free will. I'm just saying thinking is evolutionary, is an evolutionary advantage. It's evolutionarily advantageous because it allows us to predict the future accurately. That's why we have this ability, at least from the account of natural selection. I mean, there could be other causal mechanisms underlying the observed phenomena of evolution that we haven't recognized the requirement for yet, based on the particular angle that Richard Dawkins, say, or Daniel Dennett, just to give some examples, or Steven Pinker, the particular angle that these scientists are looking at nature, at biology and psychology, reveals a process which has been selected by a survival of the fittest mechanism. But that's not to say that we can't ask different questions of the phenomenon and get different results back that contradict the ones that the more reductionistic approaches are getting. It all depends on what kind of tests you do. What type of conditions do you observe the natural world under? Because those conditions, the way you structure the act of observation, has a lot to do with what kind of results, what kind of data you're going to get back. And so let's just assume that there actually were a problem of induction, that somehow it just wasn't right that the mind was able to predict so accurately, at least usually, what was going to occur in the future. There's got to be some reason why induction is a bad idea, because it seems to be blind. It doesn't really know the truth of what's going on behind appearances. It just assumes they will obey a certain habit that can be recognized almost intuitively. We want to doubt that that's the case if we think there's a real problem with induction. And so this would require a pretty staggering conclusion if we were ever going to solve this problem. Every problem implies a particular kind of a solution, just like every question has already got, pregnant within it an answer that you can foresee. That's why you can answer it. You hear the question, it implies an answer. You have to respond within a certain variety of possibilities to any particular question. You cannot just be completely spontaneous. You have to reflect a little. You have to be able to remember, because without memory, you cannot project into the future. You cannot accomplish goals or make goals. You cannot even have ideas. But if induction were a problem, the only possible solution would be the end of science itself. It would be knowing the actual underlying mechanism of how an assumption works, knowing why one thing leads to another. This is that would be paramount to understanding time, understanding consciousness. Solving the problem of induction as it has been laid out as, how does the human mind come to have knowledge of the objective world. This creates quite an enigma for us, and once that enigma has been unwrapped, all of a sudden you know everything. Solving the problem of induction would be tantamount to knowing the objective truth about how things work, about how time passes, about how causes lead to effects, and effects reflect causes. And to do this kind of a thing, we really gotta draw a line in the sand and say no to appearances, doubt them, search for something more. And it's a great game that we can play, because it really seems serious. Like there's some thing, some sequence of ideas, some sentence or a series of sentences that we've got to figure out before we actually know what the truth is. It's a very intense game of chess, and you have more than 16 pieces. You've got 25,000 words in your memory bank to work with. So I'm not trying to discourage a continued pursuit after the solution to this problem of induction, because I'm basically saying when we find that solution, it's going to be profound, because it amounts to the theory of everything, the secret of nature, and it reveals what nature is at a very fundamental level. So if we're actually going to pursue an answer to how that mechanism works, that pursuit is, to me, synonymous with the spiritual path. It's going down the rabbit hole, and once you start, it's not going to end like you expect it to, if it ends at all. So the problem of induction, it's a Zen koan, that's all. It's great for meditation, and I'm glad that we get to meditate on induction, because it makes me happy.